University Board Governance Examinations is our third report in a series on board governance. This report focuses on board governance at universities, specifically Capilano University, Thompson Rivers University, and the University of Victoria. It also examines the Ministry of Advanced Education in providing support for university governance and accountability. As the nonpartisan independent auditor of the Legislative Assembly, the Auditor General audits the government reporting entity. This consists of ministries, crown corporations, and other government organizations such as universities, colleges, school districts, health authorities, and similar organizations that are controlled by or accountable to the provincial government. The Office of the Auditor General serves the people of British Columbia and their elected representatives by conducting independent audits and advising on how well government is managing its responsibilities and resources. Under the Auditor General Act, the Auditor General conducts and reports on both financial audits and performance or value for money audits. Before we look at the results of this report, it's important to take a step back and briefly talk about governance, what it is, and why it is important. Governance refers to the structures and processes that direct, control, and hold an organization to account. For most organizations, the governing body is a board of directors, or, in the case of universities, governors. The board of directors is comprised of people elected or appointed to provide organizational oversight. In the public sector, the legislature, the responsible minister, government ministries, central government agencies, and public stakeholders also play a role in governance. Whether in the private or public sector, good governance is achieved when an organization's structures, processes, and actions enable it to deliver goods, services, or programs effectively and efficiently, and meet the requirements of the law, regulations, published standards, and community expectations of accountability and openness. In the case of universities, good governance is necessary to ensure universities deliver on their social and economic development objectives, specifically that they provide quality education and research relevant to the needs of students, local communities, and the provincial economy. Let's look at university governance in BC. As set out in the University Act, BC universities are governed by two separate bodies, the Senate and the Board of Governors. The Senate is responsible for academic governance, including establishing admission and program prerequisites, assisting with university budget preparation, review, and recommendation of courses and programs, granting degrees, and awarding scholarships and fellowships. The Board of Governors' responsibilities include the power to make rules for the conduct of its business and the management, administration, and control of the property, revenue, business, and affairs of the university. Under this bicameral structure, these bodies have responsibilities to each other, and the Senate operates in an autonomous manner from government due to its academic responsibilities. The Board of Governors consists of 15 members, with a mix of appointed, elected, and ex officio members. This includes the university president and chancellor, 2 faculty members elected by faculty, 2 students elected by students, 1 employee elected by employees, and 8 members appointed by the BC government. Our office has reviewed public sector board governance in the past. In 2012, we reviewed a mix of Crown agencies, and in 2013, we reviewed 3 school district boards. In both reports, we identified areas of good practice and for improvement. As mentioned earlier, this year we selected Capilano University, Thompson Rivers University, and the University of Victoria. All 3 universities were assessed using the same 3 objectives used in our prior board governance reports. These objectives are based on BC government's best practice guidelines and other good practice guidance. The first objective, board structure, examined whether board composition, size, term length, and appointment process resulted in a board with members that have the capacity to fulfill their governance roles. The second objective, board governance practices, examined whether boards are taking the necessary steps to fulfill their roles and responsibilities, thereby providing effective governance for the university. The third objective, government's performance expectations, examined whether government made its performance expectations of the universities clear, monitors for compliance, and works collaboratively with the universities to resolve issues. Our examinations found examples of good governance practices on the part of all 3 university boards. 2 areas of good practice in particular were noted at each of the 3 institutions. These included oversight of risk management. All 3 university boards are overseeing a formal risk identification and mitigation process. Also, board evaluations. All 3 university boards conduct annual self-evaluations of board processes and board members. Overall, it was encouraging to observe that board members were engaged and dedicated to their public service role. University accountability reports, known as institutional accountability plans and reports, outline the university's goals, objectives, performance measures, and annual performance. There are key documents that the ministry uses to assess whether the institutions are providing quality education relevant to student needs and the needs of the labor market. Boards at each of the 3 universities examined did not review and approve these reports prior to their submission to the ministry for publication. Annual review and approval would ensure that boards are aware of and responsive to their institution's performance in key areas and whether the institution has met its public accountability obligations. A number of additional areas for improvement were identified at Capilano University, including the following: board member succession and continuity. Good practice guidelines for governing boards state that appointments to boards should be staggered to achieve balance between continuity and fresh perspective. We found that in 2013, 4 of the board's 15 members, or 4 of the 8 appointed members, either completed their terms or were not reappointed by government, impacting the board's continuity of knowledge and experience. This could again become a problem if the new appointees go on to serve full terms. Another area for improvement was regarding roles and responsibilities. Board members elected by faculty, staff, and students must act in the best interests of the university as per legislation while representing the voice of their constituents. This means achieving collective responsibility where all board members support decisions of the board can be a challenge for university boards. At Capilano University, we found that on occasion elected members have publicly spoken against decisions of the board on contentious issues. We heard from members that the board would benefit from a better understanding of the roles, responsibilities, and expectations of elected members in terms of balancing their responsibilities both as board members and as representatives of their respective constituencies. It is important that boards achieve collective responsibility, otherwise decisions can be undermined and the board's authority weakened. Another area for improvement was monitoring of the strategic plan. While goals and strategies for the university are published on the university's website, we found that the board is not monitoring the university's progress towards the achievement of these goals. It is important for boards to fulfill this oversight function to hold management accountable for achieving the goals and strategies set out by the university. Another area of improvement was the president's evaluation. We expected to find that the board has in place an annual performance evaluation of the president. However, we found that the board and president have not established performance expectations or assessed the performance of the president. Annual assessment of the president's performance is an important practice that supports the president's motivation and development, as well as the performance of the university in achieving its strategic goals. This examination also included the role of the Ministry of Advanced Education in providing support for university governance and accountability. We found both examples of good practice and areas for improvement. Annual Performance Expectation Review. We looked for evidence that the ministry annually reviews the government letter of expectations issued to universities to ensure they stipulate the current level of performance expected of a post-secondary institution. We found that the ministry has an annual process in place to ensure the letters reflect current priorities before submission to the institutions for consultation. Performance Expectation Consultation. We looked for evidence that the ministry annually consults with post-secondary institutions on annual performance expectations. We found that the ministry does so through various mechanisms, including the Performance Measures Working Group, which has institutional membership and university feedback on draft expectation letters. Performance Expectation Communication to Boards. In terms of areas for improvement, we found that the ministry communicates its performance expectations to institutions. Consultation and communication has occurred primarily between the ministry and the university president, who in turn is expected to provide and explain the information to the board. We found that some board members would like to see more direct communication between the ministry and the board to reduce potential miscommunication and misunderstandings. The audit report contains 8 recommendations. We appreciate that they're very tightly displayed on this slide, however we wanted to ensure that they were easily accessible on a single slide. The Office of the Auditor General intends to conduct additional governance examinations of Crown agencies to identify further opportunities for improved governance. We will follow up with each of the universities and the ministry in 1 year to learn how they have addressed the recommendations in this report. We would like to thank the 3 universities and the Ministry of Advanced Education for their cooperation and assistance with this work. We appreciate their professionalism and the services that they provide to the citizens of BC. This concludes our summary of this report. To read this report and our other publications, or for more information about our office, please visit our website at www.bcauditor.com. The Office of the Auditor General encourages your feedback on this report, as well as your suggestions for further audits. We look forward to hearing from you.